Hard work versus talent.
Okay, so Viasan, what do you think is the most important, hard work or talent? Or what is more useful?
That's an interesting question because I think they both play a role in whatever task that you're doing. But personally, I think that hard work is more important than talent. And I'll give you a couple examples of why I feel hard work is more important. I think in order to master any skill, whether it's singing, whether it's dancing, whether it's performing well at a task, you need to stay focused on the task at hand. And some people are naturally good at that task. For example, if I'm really quick at typing on a computer, I'll be able to print out multiple spreadsheets, complete a lot of work, and finish my assignments faster. However, I believe to really go above and beyond and master that skill, with that talent, hard work needs to be attributed as well. Without hard work, you might, even if you're good at typing on a computer, you might not want to feel like typing on a computer. You might be lazy, and you just might not want to do that task. But hard work trains you to become good at a task and do it very well, master it, and become efficient with your time. And so that's why I think hard work outweighs talent, because I think there's more dedication in hard work, there's regimen in hard work, and once you've mastered hard work in a specific skill, I think you can master it a lot more easier than someone who's naturally talented at that task.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you pretty much summed it up,
Yeah.
though. But yeah, I agree that hard work is more important than talent. And you could be very talented, but if you don't have the work ethic, then it doesn't really matter. Or especially if we're thinking about getting jobs or yeah. So yeah, hard work definitely.
Is there a task that you've spent a lot of time at and given that hard work to master?
I started playing guitar 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I never played an instrument before. And I'm usually I can be very lazy when learning new things. I get unmotivated very quickly. But one day it was just okay, I have a guitar lying around. I just really want to learn how to play now. And I just put in a lot of work and hours, and now I play the guitar. And I am very proud of myself because I put that work into it. And someone, maybe if I was born with the talent to just play guitar, that would be cool, but I wouldn't have the same satisfaction of putting my mind to it and getting good. Yeah, so I don't know what.
Yeah, well, that's a good example of using hard work and something that you like to do. That's amazing. Yeah. So, do you think there's any exceptions where talent is more important than hard work?
I think so. Maybe especially in the entertainment business. You could put in a lot of hours, but if you want to be really good, a really famous actor or a really famous singer, they'll choose the more talented ones, and often the most talented ones are the ones with the predisposed talent.
Okay.
If that makes sense. No, I don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah, here's an example I have. So one of my interests is basketball. And usually the highest level of basketball is, I would say, the NBA, the National Basketball Association, which is run in America and in Canada. And usually lots of basketball players are very tall.
Right.
For that reason, they're able to have longer limbs. They're able to do a lot more things with the basketball. For example, jump, shoot, run with the basketball and play the sport at a more higher level than someone who didn't have those natural physical traits. And so I would say that in that case, someone's talented at basketball would be at a slightly more advantageous position than someone who, for example, myself, I'm 5'6", who puts a lot of hard work into basketball, but just can't beat someone who's 6'4", and just runs extremely quick because they're talented. So that might be one example of where talent, in some cases, beats hard work.
Yeah, and I think the same goes for singing, for example. You could practice singing, but if you're just born with a very beautiful voice, then maybe you're better off performing, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Superhero skills.
So what are some superhero skills that you would like to have?
There's lots of different types of skills out there that have my attention, but I think the most important skill, or the most useful skill for me, would be to clone myself. So there's an anime, Naruto, and coincidentally we're in Japan as well. In Naruto, you're able to clone yourself, and when you clone yourself, you're able to still retain all the knowledge that your clone is doing. For example, I could be here doing an interview, and my clone could be outside swimming and practicing swimming. And then when my clone disappears, I'll still retain all the knowledge I have from swimming, even though I was performing an interview here. And so I think that would be very useful in learning a lot of different types of things. For example, languages, practicing sports, cooking food. And it would be very efficient with my time, and I would be able to complete everything on my schedule.
Multitasking.
So, exactly. Multitasking at its finest. So that's definitely a superhero power that I would love to have. And what about yourself? What would you like to do?
I'm not sure. When I was little, I always wanted to be able to fly or breathe underwater because I really wanted to be a mermaid when I was little. But I think now maybe just teleportation would be really nice. I wouldn't have to walk everywhere. I'm a little lazy. I wouldn't have to sit on the plane for like 10 hours when I visit my family in the States. I hate flying. It's just really boring.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely teleportation, I think.
Okay. That's a very interesting superhero ability to have.
Yeah.
Definitely makes life a lot quicker. You won't have to sit in rush hour either when you're driving home from work.
And I could just teleport to all the different places and countries that I wanted to go to.
That's pretty amazing as well, yeah. So what else? What other types of superhero powers would you have besides teleportation?
Maybe superhuman strength. That would be cool, I think. Just walking around lifting people up and stuff, or lifting up buildings, like like Superman.
Yeah, like Superman.
Stopping asteroids and But people would definitely notice that I had superpowers on it. Maybe that's not.
You might want to compete in some strongman or power building competitions.
Yeah, and I would become famous.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be a good career move.
Yeah. But it would be purely talent and not hard work.
Exactly. But I guess you'd have to practice your superhero strength by picking up different things.
Yeah, and practicing not using too much strength and crushing things.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. That's very cool.
And are there any other powers that you would like to have?
The one superhero that's my favorite is Spider-Man. And so I saw all of his movies as a little kid. And so I think having webs coming out of your wrist, being able to fly between skyscrapers, being able to stick people onto walls, fighting crime, that would be really cool. But just mainly for the amusement aspect of flying around, slingshotting different things with your webs, that would be very cool. And a very unique skill to have. So that superpower would be amazing to have,
So he's your favorite superhero?
Yeah, I would say that he's the superhero that I relate to the most. Just recently, Spider-Man High School came out, and so it depicted Peter Parker, Spider-Man, in high school. And so it was a very fun movie, and definitely relates a lot to high school. And it was very fun to watch, and I really enjoyed that. So definitely Spider-Man is my favorite superhero.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed his movie, and definitely would love to have his web shooting abilities. Yeah.
Life in Italy.
So, Chantal, you were saying that you grew up in a small town and had a very rustic life, but then you moved overseas to Italy, correct?
Yes, I moved to Bologna, Italy.
Wow, that's such a huge transition. What was that like? And why did you move to Italy?
Oh, wow. So I moved to Italy because I was studying abroad during my junior year at university. And so I was to do a immersion program at the University of Bologna, which means all of my classes were in Italian, all of my homework, all of my exams, everything was completely in Italian. And I also had to find my own housing, which was also the first time I found housing on my own, because I had always lived in the university dorms at my university in the United States. And so, yeah, to navigate a new city, a city in general, and then finding my first apartment and learning how to survive a new university system, it was exhilarating and very exciting, and I loved it.
That's so cool. So what was it like when you first got to Italy? Did you have culture shock? I mean, because you came from a small town environment and now you're living in a big city in Europe.
I think my friends would probably say that I was very quick to trust everyone. As I mentioned before, growing up in a small town, I knew all my neighbors, and I was very trusting of strangers and very welcoming, and I still am. But in hindsight, when I moved to Italy, I think I was maybe a little too naive sometimes, and especially not knowing the language, it was easy to sort of put my trust or my faith in someone when I needed help, because I needed help often, whether for translating or even just grocery shopping. And so sometimes I think I look back and I'm like, oh, maybe I should have walked away a little bit sooner or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, so, compare life in Italy to life in the States. What was it like? How was it different?
Life in Italy feels so much slower. People are still very productive, and they're very passionate, and they go to their jobs and they go to work, but there's just this sense of how important it is to enjoy your time and to enjoy your time with family and with friends. So, for example, I feel like in the United States, people, and this is very general, but I feel like people have their jobs and they work really hard, and to the point where maybe they're so tired they go home and they just want to watch Netflix or watch TV and relax, and that's their way of relaxing, is being at home. And in Italy, it feels like the way people recharge and the way that they relax and get their energy back is being in the company of their friends and being in the company of their family. So they'll finish work and everyone will meet up for a drink in the center of town. And it's not to drink a lot. It's really just to have a glass of wine, eat some delicious food, and just sit and talk, but about nothing, really. Just enjoy the time, and eventually people decide to go home, but it'll be hours later, even though they're exhausted from work. But that's how they relax, and that's how they get their energy back, and they go to work the next day and are productive, and I really enjoyed that the most.
I can relate to that. I was in Spain for about 2 months just traveling around, and the one thing that I still remember the most is that I would go into a little pub or a bar late at night, 10 o'clock at night, and there would be old people. And I'm not talking like 50 or 60. I'm talking like 75 years old maybe. And they're well-dressed, and they're sitting at a table with their friends, and I could never imagine that happening in the United States. And it was so impressive. I was so impressed by that people really in the later years of their life still had that social spirit. They go out, they socialize, they have a good time. And we're talking late at night, like 10 o'clock. You would never see that in America, ever.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's very similar in Italy, too.
So what about the food? I hear the food is fantastic. Everyone, raves about Italian food.
Yes, it is so good, and wow, where to begin with food. I love the cheeses. There's just so many different kinds of cheese, and I'm a huge cheese, meat, jam person, and so the combination of having all of that available in Italy, and especially the different regions are known for different foods. So sometimes you can't even eat a specific type of food unless you're in that city, or otherwise you'd have to pay a lot to get it at a different part of the country. So Yeah, I mean, pizzas were delicious too. I know it's stereotypical, but the pizzas were awesome, and they're so different than the U.S. They're so thin, super, super thin. There's no, like, deep dish pizza in Italy or double crust or cheese-filled crust. That doesn't exist.
Exactly. Like it melts in your mouth, right?
Yeah, and it's so delicious, and pastas, of course, are great, and their wines are delicious too, and yeah, I miss Italian food a lot.
Well, I am thinking of going there, so you'll have to give me some tips.
I would love to.